Cine's ASMR movie store, the perfect place and home for tingles and yes, how can I help you? Okay. I see. Okay. So let me get this straight. You would like a refund for your rental of Avengers Endgame because you're upset that the heroes won, and if I'm tracking correctly, you wish that the villain Thanos won, sucking everyone into a black void, into nothingness, because you think humans deserve to be in a void of despair and sadness like your soul. Okay. Okay, yeah, can you do me a quick favor? Do you mind telling me your name and address? Perfect, alright, thank you so much. And just to let you know, if you get a knock on your door and they say it's police, it would be best to answer. Okay, bye-bye, don't ever call me again. Hi. Welcome to Cine's ASMR movie store, the perfect place for movies and tingles right at your front door. How can I help you today? Sorry about that. We get some weird customers, some characters for sure. How are you doing today? Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I assume that you're looking for some movies today? Perfect, yeah, I mean, I would hope so, right? You've come to the right place. My name is Cine. This is my store and I am here to help you. Did you have anything in mind today? Any sort of genre, movie based off of something else? Yeah, open-minded is exactly the thing that I love. That is my specialty here. I typically have an assortment of films through genres, through different sort of themes and ideas. If you're willing to take that plunge, I am more than willing to just show you a bunch of different movies. Yeah, perfect. I think, best way to start is to kind of start in that familiar territory, that familial feeling. When you watch a movie growing up, you gain that sort of nostalgia. And I kind of have these down to a science of theme and ideas in order. So I think let's start with one of my favorite comfort movies. Would that be okay? Perfect. Let me know if you want me to stop. I'll add these to your cart if you need me to, but I know I can get caught up in the passion of talking about movies, so just get comfortable. Would you like a drink, beverage of sorts? We have our own sort of snack beverage array right here. Let me get you something. Got it right down here. We have a big pack of complimentary first-time customer use Reese's dipped animal crackers. No, this is okay, I'll come clean. I had some a couple minutes ago. People like that stress me out, and I need some to like vent, to cool off. But don't worry, my hands are clean. I wash them every about like 5 to 6 days. Would you like some? I'll put them back. We'll reconvene about that later. All right. But less of the dipped animal crackers and more about the movies. First one that I really want to introduce you to is a film called Almost Famous. This is actually the 4K restoration. This film, I think, came out in the very early 2000s, directed by a very prolific filmmaker by the name of Cameron Crowe. He did a film with Tom Cruise called Jerry Maguire, and this is one of my all-time favorite films, a more recent watch for me. And the beauty of this is not only do you get the 4K transfer, one of the best transfers you will ever see, but I don't know if you can tell on the back, but in the specifications it says there is a bootleg cut, and that is this film's version, or this is release version of a director's cut, an extended cut, and you will hear that thrown a lot. There's a lot of films that like to kind of advertise a more unrated, raw, intense version, but there's mainly like barely minutes of different footage. But this, and I don't want to start spreading lies, but this is like a substantial addition. Yeah, the original is 123 minutes. This is 161. This is a drastic improvement. It is a film that is set in like a period piece of sorts. It basically is like this autobiographical odyssey, as it calls, of a 15-year-old William Miller whose writing talent and earnest passion for rock music earns him an assignment for Rolling Stone, interviewing and touring with Stillwater. So it's basically this young boy coming into his own as he is interviewing this band, and they're going around the world, and it's this kid at this transformative period in his life, and he gets to have this once-in-a-lifetime changing experience of being with this band. And there he meets Kate Hudson, he meets all of these bandmates. That is Jason Lee from like Alvin and the Chipmunks, that's Billy Crudup. And to me, it's a film that embellishes you into this feeling, into this aura. And it's a film whose vibe I cannot quite shake. And I think it's a movie by the end that I think you're going to feel completely enamored by. You willing to take a chance? Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and add that to the cart. You know? And kind of staying on that track of familiarity and comfort, I'm liking to add a couple films of each genre and mood to kind of like advance your palette and broaden your horizons. So I think following this up specifically is 2023, last year's The Holdovers. This film is a gem, a film that could have often so easily fallen into trying to replicate a mood, a time, but it stands so strongly about its themes, about its location and characters. Basically, this follows one winter break for this university, and I didn't even know what a holdover was. Just thought it was a made-up term. But Paul Giamatti plays like this older curmudgeon of a teacher, and he has to forcefully stay back and watch these kids whose parents cannot pick him up for the holidays. And there, Dominic Cease's character, who's an actor whose debut is in this film, is kind of like really sad. He's angry, angsty, and they butt heads. They butt heads constantly. But throughout the confines of this university, the lack of people, they come together. And then you have this actress by the name of Divine Joy Randolph, who's this cook. They form this unique bond because of how separate their lives are, but they share a lot more in common than they could ever expect. And I, needless to say, adore this film. Yes, it is opportune for Christmas time, but honestly, I think year-round movies like this exist to really make you feel warm, to feel appreciated and heard. I love this film so much, so much. It's the kind of film that makes you really appreciate the people you have in your life, or if you're feeling really negative, it can lift your spirits in ways that not many films can for me. I love this, and specifically, I know, kind of juxtaposed to getting a crisp, up-to-date 4K. I have this on DVD, a lot older, a bit more thicker of a print. But what I love about this, and you might think it's bad, but hear me out. There's moments in this DVD which will scratch and will have like these broken pixels. Every screen on your TV, every like micro inch is a pixel. And this copy has broken pixels throughout. It doesn't completely detract from the shots and the movie as a whole, but I would argue, because it's trying to replicate this vintage style, there is this quality to this DVD of almost like it's a broken VCR and a broken tape. I love it so much, and I think this exact format for you would be perfect to watch a movie like this. Do you mind if I add it to the cart as well? Thank you. Wonderful. Well, 2 in, I have another. This is going to kind of lean, I try to segue all of these as well. You know, one more comfort film. This film, truthfully speaking, changed my life. I'm not trying to say it'll change yours, but it's a powerful film with Marcel the Shell with shoes on. And I know what you might be asking yourself. You're seeing the shell that's using this lollipop wrapper as a parachute, and you might be like, how am I going to have a comfort to this, and how am I going to connect with this on a literal level? But to that, I would argue, why not? Like, look at this. So, for me, this movie is exemplifying of what childhood creativity is, and why I love this movie so much. I think I should read the concept concept and the kind of backstory behind this in order for you to truly understand why. As Marcel is an adorable 1-inch tall shell who ekes out of a colorful existence with his grandmother Connie and their pet Lint Allen. Once part of a sprawling community of shells, they now live alone as the sole survivors of a mysterious tragedy. But when a documentary filmmaker discovers them amongst the clutter of his Airbnb, the short film he posts online brings Marcel millions of passionate fans, as well as unprecedented dangers and a new hope at finding his long-lost family. A beloved character gets his big screen debut in this hilarious and heartwarming story about finding connection in the smallest of corners. Now, what I love so much about this movie specifically is it feels like the personification of why this even exists. Because Marcel the Shell, if you didn't know, was a collection of internet videos by the director of this movie, and it eventually got him the funding and acquiring by A24 to make this movie. And I think it is a film about dissonance, about feeling displaced from your family, from your environment, and trying to build the pieces back together. And I think that is a universal feeling, something we have all felt in one frame or another of our lives. And this collection, I just want to hint just briefly without giving too much away, but like, look at this. The way that this is packaged is just the pinnacle of why this movie matters. Like, it says the movie, and you have Marcel. You have this back right here, which is like one of like the tree houses that the shells live in. And then you open this up, and it comes with a booklet that is like the perfect punctuation of it all. But look, it's Marcel with her little footprints on the Blu-ray. I think to me, there is a beauty within packaging, within having a thing that you can own be an extension of what it is that this film is holding. And Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is a movie that I cry at, I laugh at, and it's like an 85-minute movie that packs all of these emotions in. It's a movie I will resort to for the rest of my life, and I can almost guarantee it'll do the same and have the similar effect for you. Do you mind if I add it to the collection? Thank you so much. Alright, next we're kind of veering out of comfort and familiarity in terms of like a family sense and more into something a bit more expansive mentally. And with this is a film that I just am so shocked that more people don't know about, because 9 Days stands to be one of my favorite films with a concept that honestly is so good that it has completely altered the way that my brain thinks about ideas that are in this movie. This cast is stacked. You have Pennywise from It. You have M'Baku, Winston Duke from Black Panther. You have Zazie Beetz, who plays Domino in Deadpool 2. And Benedict Wong, who plays Wong from Doctor Strange. But essentially, this movie helped figure out what I believe in a lot of ways about who I am, the existence of who I am as a person. Because, to be honest, I ask myself that question a lot, and I'm not trying to dive or veer the conversation into a different direction, but I think a lot to myself about why I am in this body, why my mind is in this body, in this time, in this part of the world, why? And these are questions I'll never get answers to, but it's a movie like this which offers some sort of clarity into guiding you to that answer. And this movie really is one of the most unique ideas ever. Will, played by Winston Duke, spends his days in a remote outpost watching the live POV on TVs of people going about their lives until one subject perishes, leaving a vacancy for a new life on Earth. Soon, several candidates, unborn souls, are tested in determining their fitness facing oblivion when they are deemed unsuitable. But Will soon faces his own existential challenge in the form of a free spirit by the name of Emma, who's played by Zazie Beetz. A candidate who is not like the others, forcing him to turn within and reckon with his own tumultuous past. Fueled by unexpected power, he discovers a bold new path forward in his own life. And if that concept doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. This movie really is a mind melter, but it's the kind of movie where I think there are films that exist with concepts that are so sweeping and grand, it can get lost in that. But this concept exists not to make you confused or play it in this science fiction-esque way, but to actually tell a deeply profound human story. The connections that all these people share. It's a low-budget film. It takes place pretty much entirely in this house as he's interviewing these people. And you really find, I wouldn't even call them people yet, but these puddles that are forming into the clay of a human. And it's one of the wildest films I've ever seen, but you will not be the same by the time it ends. Can I add it to the collection? Thank you. Wonderful. That really is the biggest statement I could say about the movie. Wonderful. Next, very different movie, visually and stylistically, but I cannot recommend it enough, because here we have a movie that I have come back to, I have to say, well over a dozen times. This is the movie, and I mean, judging based off of the artwork, look at how beautiful and visually dazzling this is. Look at that. The Mitchells versus the Machines. And this edition specifically is something that I think you need to have in your collection. This Blu-ray comes with some of the best features you can watch. It is an animated movie that, although I think Spider-Verse takes the cake as being like the best there is the movie that I would take to my grave. It is a film that feels so specific to why I love it, and I think you will too, because it essentially just surrounds the Mitchell family, who is the definition of dysfunction. They cannot seem to get along. They cannot seem to be on the same track or the right pace. It's always some sort of distance between them. And when Katie gets accepted to a film school in California, she has full intentions to leave, take the flight, and go to school. But when her dad realizes that this is the last time that she'll have his daughter together, he realizes, no, we're going to take a road trip. And that jettisons them on a journey that makes it even worse when the moment they decide to take this trip, the AI robot apocalypse erupts. And so you have this larger than life circumstance of these robots trying to take them in this story about such a human relationship of a family in dysfunction. If you have had a family, it doesn't even have to be as big as the Mitchells, you know what dysfunction is. And it's the kind of film that I really don't think you can watch any other animated film and feel as personally invested by how much of a commitment this team put into the movie. It blends 2D and 3D in a way that puts Sony Picture Animation on a map that I have a profound respect for, because it looks gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous in a way that you feel every frame was made off of a group of people that were born to do this thing. The director, the people, and the special features. If you look, there's this dog, the goofiest dog you'll ever see. His name is Monch. There's a mini movie that you can watch that ties into the film, but there's special features on here that'll make you appreciate animation on a whole other level, even if you're not an animator. I cannot draw for my life. I love this film so much. And the reason why I say that this edition, owning this physically, is where it's at, it's because there's two versions of this movie. The standard regular version, which is a banger, but there's also this Katie Mitchell Bonanza extended cut, which is an entirely different movie, where it isn't fully animated, but there's some shots that are hand-drawn, voice acted by the animators, because it didn't go to the final stages, and it really does add that level of perspective which show the power of human influence. And I think with the conversation of like AI and all this, it is movies like this which I think we need to keep making. Do you mind if I add it to the list? Thank you. I feel the need to ask for your permission every time because these are the films that I want you to watch, you know, but it's entirely up to you. And that leads directly into our next one, another animated film, similarly based off of the power that humans have in the influence of art. We have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And if you can't see, based off of this cover alone, this is a fairy tale story unlike anything you've ever seen. I mean, like, look at this. Look at this. It's gorgeous. It is seriously gorgeous. And I bet you could be maybe thinking to yourself, there are so many stories about Pinocchio, about this wooden boy who, whenever he lies, his nose grows. Why should I watch this? And to that end, I would say you're right. Pinocchio is basically Disney's version of the Batman. It is done twice a year, 3 times a year, over and over again. It feels like a rinse, dry, repeat cycle. But that is all the more reason when I say that this has meaning. When I say that Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, is the best crowning jewel of all of them, I am not speaking in hyperbole. This is a movie, and I mean, Guillermo del Toro is a man who, in every film he makes, is seeping into that imagination of what childlike wonder is. Every story he makes feels like his stamp is on it. And this, about this boy who's growing up, trying to find how to be human into making the best relationship he can with his maker, Geppetto. But the way that this movie takes a very different route, and much more realistic and darker route, although being stop motion, it defies the fact that, like, animation is not a genre, but a medium to tell stories. It mixes wartime fascism and the lengths that people will go to become the monsters that they are, to really tell the story of this wooden boy being more human than the people around him, that makes this so vital and imperative to watch. On top of this edition, like, look at this. Look at this for a second. Open this up. I'm trying not to drop the booklet, but look, you see this? Pinocchio's nose? Oh. It's so cool. And we talk about like physical editions coming with booklets. I cannot stress, this book is the animation Bible. You open it up, like the first image, look how happy this man looks. Look how happy he looks. Oh, unbelievable. But it's basically like goes through the different art that is had in the movie. But it makes to me the realization that stop motion is becoming little by little a bygone art form. And we need to have that stop. We need to have that end. It takes animators years to have this movie finished. And whether through the special features or the information in this booklet, you'll quickly realize that there will be scenes in this movie that are 45 seconds long. They're not very consequential to the movie. But it takes one animator years, literal years, to have it done. And for that alone, you need to check this out. You can watch it, but experiencing it in the format that this collection gives is beyond more than I can recommend. Can I add it to the collection? Yes. Alright, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next one is completely different. Completely different. Now we're going to dive more into sci-fi dense stories. And this one isn't even what I would consider a movie, but more a mini-series. And this is the most recent addition to this list. But I cannot praise it enough with Station 11. This was a show that released, I believe, in early 2021. And it's an apocalyptic show. Centering on an apocalypse that happens, a virus, an outbreak, and certain lives of people prior, during, and after. But what makes this so good and why it hurts so much that nobody seems to talk about this, which I don't blame them, right? You're not going to want to watch a show that is indicative of what everyone was going through in that time of their lives in late 2020, early 21, but it hurts because you watch this show and it does something so unique from a storytelling perspective of depicting this apocalypse, but showing that the humans are the fundamental causation, not because of the apocalypse, but because of the isolation that they have within themselves. And it follows mainly these artistic people. You have actors, writers, performers who commingle in their relationships, but also like the self-sabotage, the volatility that they have, the lies they create. And it's more like watching what happens when you see someone pursue their dreams, but at what expense, and this isolation of an apocalypse occurs and they have to find who they are again. It's like watching someone be born, grow into their life, die, and then be reborn again. And it sounds a bit hokey, but I promise you, this show takes this story to new levels. It's an adaptation, and I've heard across the board, this is better than the book, which you never hear. It's a story spanning different characters who intersect and have connections through different means, even though a majority of them never have even met. And the way that it concludes, for me, is in a way that, and I've never had this before, where when it ended, I thought to myself, I need to rewatch this, because the people that you end off on are entirely different than the people you begin with. It feels like they are your family, and I cannot stress just how imperative it is. It's like 8.5 hours, and I'm not saying you need to get that done in one sitting. In fact, I would implore you to just take it slowly, let it absorb you. Do you mind if I add it? Sec, thank you. In the next, we are going to talk about a very different sci-fi film, a much lighter one, and a movie that I just feel isn't getting kind of made anymore in beautiful 4K fashion, The Fifth Element. This is a film that my dad introduced to me as a kid, and I'm hooked. I was hooked then, I'm hooked now. You have these three actors, Gary Oldman as the villain, and that sort of like mustache-twirling psychotic way. Bruce Willis is this very charismatic but grizzled guy, and Mia Jovovich as this kind of like fish out of water. But what I love so much about The Fifth Element, and it's something that I just don't feel is had as much anymore in sci-fi, is that swashbuckling sense of fun. And I think there is a complete demographic in space for science fiction to exist, very serious, dark, but also I think we lose out on the fun, and this movie pours so much money into the set pieces and the ideas of kind of like this cab driver named Corbin Dallas, who by circumstances is thrusted in having to protect but also pair with this alienish looking woman who is foreign to everything around her, and the two of them come together through the odds to track down in order to save the galaxy. And it's extreme, it's grand, but I love every single second of it. I have so much fun from beginning to end, and although the director of this film is not a good person, he, I think, is like French. This feels like, in the best ways, it's like it was made by someone who is not American, who was not born in the States, and it's so odd and unique and has this visual breath to itself that is not breathed by many other science fiction films. It's a lot of fun. It takes so many swings, and on 4K with a big sound system, which if you don't have, you're not missing out. It only enhances your experience. You will have some of the best times you will have watching a movie. It's one of my favorites. It's a comfort film. Can I add it to hopefully make it a comfort film for you too? Sec. Alright, now keeping in line with science fiction theme, I just talked about a lighter one and how there is that room to occupy the darker films. I have to give my flowers to the creator. This film came out last year, made not nearly enough money. It flopped at the box office, and it makes me really, really sad. This is directed by Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, which is a Star Wars film, and although I don't adore that movie, both get this sense of scale right when you're telling a story so seeped into humanity, which is basically centering on this character, John David Washington. It's basically like in the world in a future where humanity creates AI that begins to itself, they immediately retaliate and ostracize the AI and try to destroy all of them. You follow this ex-Special Forces agent, played by John David Washington, and as he's grieving the disappearance of his wife, he's recruited to kill an AI architect who has developed a mysterious weapon that could end humankind. And I love this movie. I think it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it does something very unique in that it focuses more on this spiritual energy to itself, that the culture of these AI, it breathes in this like synthesized vibe through the score, the look, and it was made for $80 million. Now for me, Cine, at this movie store, $80 million would change my life, as I would assume it would do for you. But in Hollywood, most big science fiction films that look this good cost double, if not triple that. And it was shot on a camera that, for realistic sake, you could probably go to Best Buy and get. That just doesn't happen. It is an efficient movie, visually, financially, but it's a movie that breathes so much into how we think, how we perceive the world, and it has my favorite child performance that I've seen in a very, very long time. She crushes it. Absolutely. And I think it's just a movie full of surprises and engrossing atmosphere and world building that, and if you've ever seen any of these movies, I hope that I can recommend at least you giving them a rewatch, including this first time or rewatch. I'm going to add it to the collection. Perfect. Perfect. But now we are down to the last three, and I'm going to categorize these all by saying they were each universally banned to an extent in all different capacities, and I save them for specific reasons like that. But I'm going to start off with an action film, one that you can turn your brain off, but I recommend turning it on for the way that it's presented, with Black Hat. Now this comes in two different versions. There is the theatrical version, which came out and was critically banned in 2015. People did not like this movie. And then there is this director's cut, which actually is 1 minute shorter, but restructures the entire movie. And I cannot recommend that enough, as you basically follow this hacker who gets out of prison on a deal that his sentence will be reduced if he helps the federal agency and the FBI track down this cyber terrorist who could have an organization or work on its own, and he is threatening to basically start nuclear warfare. And I think what makes this movie work so well is the way that it feels. It is shot by the director Michael Mann, and it is directed by him. And if you know anything about him, Heat, Collateral, he shoots having this digital edge to the film. It is crisp, but it makes these colors feel so much more saturated and refined. And the way that this film shoots hacking, where it goes into the technology, I don't think I've ever seen quite like this before. It rolls and it moves. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it honestly feels like 80 to 90. Chris Hemsworth is so hot in this movie, but he pulls off this very unique character of the physicality not being the selling point. He was hot at the time. I mean, as an actor, everyone wanted him, but he does something very unique with the character. It's a story about past and regrets, about relinquishing yourself of that old skin and being a better person, but also impulse acting on what you feel, emotion versus logic. It is a great film that I think is criminally underrated and misunderstood. I'm gonna add it to the collection. And this next movie, you're gonna laugh at me for. Please hold on, let me explain, because I really am going to die on the hill that Five Nights at Freddys is gas. This film is gas packed to the max, and I don't care what anyone says. If you're familiar with the games or not, this movie does it in a way that an adaptation should. What made the game so good was the atmosphere and the jump scares in a gameplay sense. It was never going to be able to be translated into a movie. And the narrative of having this brother and sister played by Josh Hutcherson, it works for me. And having the animatronics be made by the Jim Henson Company, who did like the Muppets, Dark Crystal, it is a lot of fun. It is goofy, it's cheesy, but I mean, were you going to take a movie this serious that has main characters Freddy Fazbear, Chica, Bonnie, and like Foxy? No, like, look at this. I don't know what people were expecting. I think it is criminally slept on. It's just a lot of fun to bring your friends together, laugh at the movie, laugh with the movie. You will enjoy it, even if you've seen it. A rewatch knowing what it is, I think will do you a lot of good. I'm going to add this to the collection as well. Perfect. Alright, now finally, this last film I was saving for last because it's the hardest one for me to recommend, and it has the most profound impact on me. The more I think about it, the Cine that is working at Cine's ASMR movie store that is here right now would not exist if it weren't for We're All Going to the World's Fair, a film that has changed my life. And I say that about a lot of these films, but I truly mean that the present me would not be the me who I am without this. And it's still wrapped in this beautiful case. It has this unique, like, translucent packaging. I love it. But it's a film that, although it might be categorized online and listed as a horror film, which has horrifying elements, I see as a deeply dramatic story about isolation, depression, and the digital age disparaging people into feeling like they're alone. And if you've ever had unbridled internet access, freedoms to technology that would get you on websites like Omegle, Creepypastas, 4chan, Reddit, and you were exposed to things you weren't, this is the movie for you. It shows in a way that I've never seen before, as you follow this young girl who's kind of like entering that weird stage of teenage/adulthood, and she becomes obsessed with this internet challenge called the World's Fair Challenge, with you basically doing these certain steps that gets you into the World's Fair. And when she does this, her whole world begins to change, her worldview, everything around her. But to say that there's a lot more under the surface, and the World's Fair and the challenge has a lot more to say than just a regular internet challenge, is where this movie really, really shines. I've thought about this movie every day. And I think like the poster, well, incredible, I think may give you a false idea of what it is, because this movie was shot for what I think was like $5,000 to $10,000. It was directed by a trans woman, and that sort of perspective really is fundamental to how she made this movie, and it works. It fundamentally changed me, and I think you may not like it. It's 80 minutes, but it has an ending in the way that it wraps itself up that guts me in a way that I don't even think a movie that had 20 times its budget, had all extra people working to make it happen, would be nearly as effective as this. It is one of the best movies I've ever seen, but I promise you, if you watch it, think about it a little bit, sit and reflect on how it was made and what it was trying to say to you, because I think you'll appreciate it the more you sit on it versus working with rash decisions. So, I'm gonna add this. And there you have it. I could go on and on, but I'm seriously trying not to overwhelm you even more than I have at this point. So, did you have any questions? How are you feeling right now? Are you doing okay? Wonderful. So, I think what I'll do is I'll ring you up and we'll work out that tonal together. Let's do it. Whoop. Okay. Oh, I totally forgot. I almost forgot about like the whole thing in the beginning. Oh my goodness. Who was I to forget about these decadent Reese's animal dipped crackers that were partially opened and were eaten by me in transit? I'm sorry I didn't eat today. But I think I'll add it for you. Just that perfect movie snack to grub on as you're watching all these movies in no particular order. So, yeah. Do you mind if I have one real quick, actually? Mind if I have one? Thank you. You're really the best. Thank you so much. Oh, dude, I love these so much. You have no idea how much these mean to me. This is so good. Don't worry, my hands are clean. I promise. It's only been like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks at most. But I'll put these right here. Okay. Don't worry. I had about 70% of the bag, so I'll only charge you for like 30% of it. Okay. What am I kidding? Just take these. You've earned them. You've deserved them. I lied to you earlier when I said that I had a stack of these movies ready for any customer looking. That isn't true. If they're asking for advice, I just tell them to look at the collection. You came in, you seemed so great, your aura was so intoxicating. You seem like a terrific person, so I'll just give them to you. The snack, the movies, all of it, it's yours. Here, take it. Thank you so much for coming to Cine's ASMR movie store. I look forward to more coming soon. We're expanding with all the money that I'm clearly making with games and comic books. So look forward. If you want to come back, let me know. Please type out in our reviews in the comment section of this very prolific YouTuber named Cinephile ASMR's comment section of the video that you love this and you want more. That's just our only way so far of knowing if you want more. So please do so. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, felt relaxed, and liked all these movies. Have a great day, but of course,